Hey everybody, let's take a look at two of the exact same watch, the WVA-500J, or I think these would be the DJ. Why do I have two? Well, I buy a lot of watches in bulk and try to find some good deals, and sometimes you just need to replace a battery to get a busted watch up and running. But these two watches kind of landed into my possession. I had never heard of them before. Probably the reason why is I think these were JDM only. These are part of the Wave Scepter series. Pretty sure they came out around 2003. They are tough solar, and they're Wave Scepter, but they're not multi-band Wave Scepter. So I'm pretty sure these only work in Japan, or you can get an app on your phone that emulates the tower there. I don't know if it's JJY or JYY, but that's just the call sign for the radio. And you can emulate that atomic time signal. But a pretty cool watch. A lot of Wave Scepters today are all plastic. Eventually, they kind of came out with, or they brought back the Lineage line, which has the metal, like nicer, higher end Wave Scepters. But these are a mix of both. The case itself is resin. You can kind of see that here. Yeah. You can kind of see the case itself is resin, but the case back is pretty large and it wraps around the whole thing, and that's steel, and the pushers are steel, and the bezel itself is steel all around here, and it's actually kind of nice. It has this really nice polishing on it, or brushing, polishing. This right here, this portion here is resin, but it's painted. I'm not a big fan of painted resin. When it scratches, you see like the resin beneath it. Yeah, this is how I should be holding these, so you can actually see these in operation. A pretty cool watch, and a digi, pretty loaded with functionality. Yeah, metal bracelet, kind of a custom end link, but the links themselves seem to be solid. And of course, there's a pretty typical buckle for the time in 2003, pressed clasp, obviously, but nice watch. For those interested, I'm also wearing another Casio, a more modern one. This is the Ocw T200 with the gray version. It's kind of a rare version. I plan on making a video on that at some point, but you'd have to subscribe if you ever want to see that. Let's just get some numbers on this. We got a dimension of 43, so a largish watch. Man, I'm actually surprised. I feel like this would be smaller. It definitely looks a lot smaller than 43. It's pretty thick though. It looks thick. Wow, this watch is, yeah, 15 millimeters. So it is. So my eyes are correct when it comes to the thickness of this. The length of this watch is kind of a hard thing to consider because it's sort of an integrated bracelet. So what is the length here? A lot. It's going to be just monstrous if we consider this to be a length. Yeah, 64 millimeters. I guess if we only measured here, then it's 55. But I'm actually surprised just holding these. I felt like these were a much smaller watch. So I have a 7.5-inch wrist. So I would say above average, but not quite a large wrist. It's a nice size. Yeah, that's a 43 millimeter watch. I think the bezel is so large on this, and the taper doesn't feel as wide as that. It feels 15 mil thick, that's true. So why don't we go through some of the features other than it being solar. I don't think that's a sapphire crystal or anything. Lap memory 50, chronograph, full auto LED. So auto LED is when you tilt it and it turns on. I don't have that enabled, but it does have a fantastic micro light. That's a little bit of sarcasm. You know what? It's not dark, so I kind of depend on the daylight for the. Yeah, you know, I thought that by 2003 we had better lights. It's visible in the day. I'm sure at night that's fine. But it's not great. It's not a dual backlight. It doesn't light up that little screen. So we have the time mode that we're in. We can press the lap reset button in the corner to change the visuals, where we have date, or day, we can see date, we can see the time in digital format. We also have different modes. We can go into the chronograph mode, and in the chronograph mode, you saw the second hand does dual duty. It's a chronograph seconds hand and it's a time seconds hand. And when we start, we see the digital time, but we also see tenths of a second up here. Now let's see, the other subdials, I don't think they're used at all. I think that's just 24-hour time. And I wonder if that's used, if this is an accumulator for minutes for the chronograph. Yeah. I know when it's not in chronograph mode, it's the battery gauge, low, medium, high. So that's pretty cool. And I'm wondering if at 30 seconds that would stop. I'm trying to see if the other subdials move, but it doesn't really look like it has. You know, if this was a minute counter here, we would have seen that. It might only move in steps once per minute, so we'll see at a minute through. You know, a cool little watch. I like chasing down the well-known ones, the watches that everyone knows and cares about, but I also like finding these oddballs that no one knew about, and then, you know, if you wear it, yep, at a minute, that went over. So that's the minute counter, that's a tenth of a second, which has stopped because it would use a lot of battery in this mode, and that's just 24-hour time. I should mention 10 bar of water resist. That's pretty good. You can wear this all day. I think this paint would start to chip off, but with this metal bezel, that's going to be really nice. It's going to be really nice. So if I had no watches and I were looking for something a little unique, I think this would be pretty cool. Let's see. And as part of this, there's lap. So let's press the lap. This is like a typical chronograph, although we have pushers in these places instead of your usual 2 and 4. Okay, we're on the second lap. I wanted to just get some other laps in. And lap 3. Okay, now we're done. We're out of chronograph mode. And now let's go into the next mode. This is what I thought was kind of neat, that after the time mode, there's like this recall mode where you can actually go through and you can see the times there. So there's a lot of chronographs where you can start and stop laps, but you have to know it in the moment. It's, you know, write it down on a piece of paper or call it out to someone. But this watch, once you use it as a chronograph, it'll remember for recall. Let's see. And that's the split time. Yeah, split and lap time. So you can see the total time here. Let's see. Yeah. So that's like the time of the individual laps and the time total elapsed from the beginning at each lap. So that's pretty cool. And the next mode is diff. I do not know what... diff, that's the second time zone. That's what it looks like. Yeah. Yeah, I can just go back. So there's no time zone names in here. It's all relative to DST. So Eastern time zone is, GMT. So it's GMT -5. So you have a second time zone on it. You have an alarm. Alarms on all Casios are the same. It has it. You hear it beep. That's probably what the alarm sounds like. And this last one where it says HS, I have no idea what this means. They both have this mode. No, I do know what it means. That's handset. So in a lot of these watches, you need to, you can set the time digitally and you'll see the hands just kind of move to wherever you tell them, but you need to calibrate it. So I'm sure if I held this down, these hands will start moving. I could set the 0 point. So that's zeroed out. 6 p.m. Yeah, that's correct. Yep. And, oh, now I'm adjusting that. And so that's a little off, actually. That should be at 0. So perfect. That should be at 0. And that was correct. So that, well, that's all we're bouncing back and forth between. Yep. All right, handset mode, and then we're back. And then, of course, when you get back to, there's a higher frequency to know that you're back in normal time mode, so you can get back in without looking. So I think all in all, that's everything you need to know about this watch. I don't think there's other videos on it, but anyone who's curious about it now can find out everything they need. Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, let me just set the time so you see how it looks when we You set the time zone a couple hours back, and you'll watch, full motorized control. I always like seeing that. You don't have to fast forward or rewind. Daylight saving time, it'll auto adjust and do one of these things, and then we're back in business. Alrighty, I think that's everything for the WVA-500J. Oh, one other little note. This is the DJ version, T being for the bracelet. There's a TDJ version that's titanium. I don't know if it's just the bracelet is titanium, or if all these other metal bits are titanium. And there was a follow-up watch, a 510. And I see it. I don't see visually any differences. I haven't looked too close. So that whole line of watches all uses the 2763 module. So you could also do searches for 2763 and get yourself a funky little, weird little Casio like this. Alrighty, thanks very much. Take care.